Look at the housing market. Look at your savings. You're probably working harder than ever, yet everything feels out of reach. There is a specific reason for this, and it leads back to a series of policy shifts enacted in 1981. Ronald Reagan is often remembered as the face of American optimism, but while he spoke of a morning in America, his administration was implementing a framework that changed how wealth moves through the economy. If you own a single share of stock or have dollar bills sitting in a bank account right now, you are operating entirely inside the system he built. Right now, we are finally seeing the catastrophic long-term results of those 1981 choices play out across global markets. Today, understanding your current financial position requires examining this 1981 legislative shift, specifically how changes to tax and corporate law redirected the flow of capital away from the middle class. In the decades before the 1980s, the American middle class operated on a different set of rules. A single income could often support a family, and as workers became more productive, their wages generally rose in tandem. But by the late 1970s, that system was buckling under 14% inflation. Exhausted by gas lines and stagnant growth, the public was looking for a new economic direction. Reagan's solution was supply-side economics. He slashed the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 28%, arguing that cutting taxes for the wealthiest Americans would eventually benefit everyone through increased investment and job creation. The immediate result was a massive rally on Wall Street. The stock market grew by over 300% during his presidency, as investors and corporations saw their available capital explode. But while the stock market roared, a structural shift was taking place in how corporations distributed their earnings. The mechanism of American wealth was being re-engineered. One of the most significant changes was the legalization of corporate stock buybacks. Before 1982, a company using its own profits to pump up its stock price was largely considered market manipulation. Reagan's SEC changed those rules. This redirected corporate cash. Instead of raising worker pay or improving factories, companies moved trillions into Wall Street to inflate share prices and increase executive compensation. The data shows a clear divergence starting in 1981. While productivity climbed, average worker wages stopped keeping pace. This shift meant that even as workers became more efficient, those gains no longer reached their bank accounts. The capital was being moved to a different part of the balance sheet, away from payroll and into equity. As wage growth slowed, the economy moved toward a model based on credit. Credit cards, student loans, and larger mortgages became the primary tools for the middle class to maintain their standard of living. America moved from a culture of building wealth to one of borrowing it. Today, it frequently requires two incomes and significant debt to sustain the same lifestyle that was once possible on a single salary. At the same time, the administration was implementing a second major shift. They paired those massive tax cuts with a significant increase in government and military spending. The national debt tripled during the Reagan years. The United States transitioned from the world's largest creditor nation to its largest debtor. This set a precedent that continued for decades: maintain high spending while reducing revenue, using national debt and central bank liquidity to bridge the gap. This 1981 framework still dictates how the American economy functions today, regardless of which party is in power. We live in a financialized system. It is an environment that prioritizes financial engineering and quarterly stock performance over long-term stability or the well-being of the workforce. The results are the market symptoms we see right now: persistent inflation, asset bubbles, and a national debt that places increasing pressure on the financial system. The current system is highly efficient at increasing the value of capital, but it leaves those without significant assets to struggle with the rising cost of living. You cannot accurately navigate the modern housing crisis or the stock market without understanding that these conditions were built into the economic architecture decades ago. However, seeing these structural trends clearly is the first step toward protecting your financial future. When you understand the incentives, you can move your money more effectively. Look beyond the hype of the financial markets and focus on parts of the economy that create real, sustainable value, rather than relying on financial engineering. Now that we've looked at the data, what do you think? Was Reagan the hero who revitalized the country, or the architect of its current inequality? Share your perspective in the comments. I read every one of them. If this analysis gave you a new perspective on the markets, like the video and subscribe for more deep dives. Identifying these historical patterns is essential. Next, we are going to look at the specific moves you can make to position your portfolio for the market shifts we expect in 2026. I'll see you in the next one.